A month before everything changed, I poked a hole in the condom I found hidden in my girlfriend's bag. I didn't know what I was doing then, not really. I wasn't jealous, I wasn't angry. I was curious, maybe, restless, definitely. That tiny act, impulsive and petty, was a secret I carried with me as I watched our life together unravel, strand by strand, in ways I could never have predicted. The night I found it, we were supposed to meet her parents for dinner. I reached into her purse for her wallet, looking for her ID to order wine. She always forgot it. And my fingers brushed something slick and plastic. I pulled out the little foil square, the kind that we hadn't used in months. We talked about trust, exclusivity, our future. So I stared at it, palms sweating, mind racing. Why did she need this? I poked it, not with intent to sabotage, but just to feel its fragility, to see if it would burst. It didn't. I put it back. I didn't say a word. During dinner, she smiled and told stories about her childhood. I watched her mouth form words I'd heard before, but the rhythm of her sentences felt off, rehearsed. She tucked her hair behind her ear and glanced at her smartwatch, which buzzed once, twice. Her eyes flickered, but she didn't respond. After dessert, as the conversation turned to travel plans, her smartwatch lit up. I saw it, a contact name I didn't recognize, followed by 3 red heart emojis. She didn't notice me noticing, or maybe she pretended not to. Her mother asked about her new gym friend, and she laughed, a half-second late. That night, I lay next to her and replayed the sequence, the condom, the hearts, the laugh. I told myself it was nothing. Everyone has friends, but sleep wouldn't come. The next morning, she left early for work. I stayed behind, rummaging through her bag again. The condom was gone. I felt a cold weight in my chest. I texted her, "Hope your day goes well." She replied with a sun emoji. Then, silence. Days blurred. We made love once, hurriedly, without words. Her phone was always face down. I tried to pretend, tried to be the man who didn't care, but I started noticing patterns. The way she dressed differently for certain evenings out. The way she showered before bed, not after work. The way she laughed at her phone, then grew quiet when she caught me watching. One evening, I waited for her outside her office. She emerged, not alone, but with a man. Tall, athletic, with the kind of easy charm that made people glance twice. They hugged, nothing more, but their bodies lingered, as if remembering something they shouldn't. She spotted me and waved, her smile brittle. "Hey," she said, voice a little too bright. "What are you doing here?" "I missed you," I lied. "Thought we could grab dinner." She glanced at the man, then at me. "This is Matt," she said, "from the gym." Matt shook my hand. His grip was firm. "Good to meet you," he said. His eyes didn't linger. We ate at a nearby bistro. She talked about work, the gym, Matt's new puppy. I listened, nodding, but my mind was elsewhere. Her smartwatch buzzed again. She ignored it. I excused myself to the bathroom and returned to see her texting rapidly, thumb flying across the screen. She looked up, guilty, and tucked her phone away. Later at home, I asked, "Are you happy?" She paused. "Of course I am. Why?" Her answer was too quick. I wanted to ask about the condom, about Matt, about the hearts, but I didn't. I didn't know how. Weeks passed. I watched her, studied her. She grew distant, spending more time at the gym, more time with friends. I became obsessed with her schedule, her texts, her moods. I checked her bag every chance I got. No more condoms. I started tracking her location, watching her online status. One night, she came home late, hair damp, eyes bright. "Sorry," she said, "lost track of time." "Were you with Matt?" She hesitated. "Yeah, we went for drinks with some people from the gym." I nodded. "Did you have fun?" She smiled. "Yeah." I wanted to scream, to demand answers. Instead, I said, "I love you." She froze. "I love you too." She didn't meet my eyes. I tried to sleep that night, but dreams of her and Matt haunted me. I imagined them together, imagined her laughter, her touch. I felt sick. The next day, I confronted her. "I saw your smartwatch," I said. "The hearts, the messages. Who is he?" She stared at me, shock and anger warring in her eyes. You're checking my messages now? I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to trust you. She sighed. Matt's just a friend. That's not what your messages say. She looked away. You don't trust me. I shook my head. Should I? She was silent. We fought. Words spilled out. Anger, accusation, confusion. She cried. I cried. We clung to each other, desperate and lost. Weeks passed. We tried to repair things, tried to rebuild trust. She deleted Matt's contact. She quit the gym. She promised to be honest. But something was broken. I watched her, waiting for another sign. I found nothing. She became careful, guarded. A month after I poked the condom, she sat me down. I need to tell you something, she said. My heart raced. I kissed Matt, she said. Once, at the gym. I was drunk. It didn't mean anything. I ended it. I felt numb. Why didn't you tell me? I was scared, she whispered. Scared you'd leave. Scared of losing you. I couldn't speak. I'm sorry, she said. I chose you. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to forgive. But trust, once broken, is hard to mend. We went to therapy. We talked. We cried. Slowly, painfully, we rebuilt. Months passed. She became open again, sharing her life. I tried to let go of the past. Sometimes, late at night, I remembered the condom, the messages, the hearts. But I chose to stay. Love is fragile, like that foil square. One poke, and everything can change. If you felt this story, please like, comment, and subscribe for more. The days after her confession blurred into a strange new routine, an uncertain truce. I woke each morning with a leaden weight in my chest, a feeling that the world had shifted under my feet and left me teetering on a new, precarious edge. We were together, but we weren't the same. Every word, every glance, every silence carried the echo of what she told me. I kissed Matt once. I chose you. We started therapy the following week. I remember the first session, how I could barely look at her across the circle of light cast by the therapist's lamp. The room was warm and smelled faintly of lavender. I half expected the therapist to pass judgment, to take sides. Instead, she listened. She made space for silence. When I stumbled through my anger and confusion, she nodded, never flinching. When Emily cried, her voice raw, the therapist didn't console, only encouraged her to go deeper. Why did you stay? The therapist asked me gently, her pen poised. I stared at my hands. Because I love her, because I want to believe her, because I can't imagine my life without her, even now. Emily reached for me, her hand trembling. I let her fingers wrap around mine. It was a start. The therapy sessions became a lifeline. We learned to talk again, not just about the infidelity, but about everything. Our fears, our disappointments, the small resentments that had accumulated like dust in the corners of our marriage. The therapist taught us how to listen, really listen, without interrupting or defending or trying to fix. It was harder than I expected. Sometimes the anger would flare up in me without warning. I'd be making coffee in the kitchen and suddenly remember the look on her face when she admitted the kiss, or the way her smartwatch had flashed those heart emojis during dinner. My chest would tighten, my jaw clench. I wanted to ask her all over again, why? But I'd learned that path led only to more pain. Instead, I started writing things down. I filled a notebook with questions, fears, memories. Some nights, when I couldn't sleep, I'd reread my entries, tracing the arc of my own grief. It wasn't just about her and Matt. It was about me too. My own sense of worth, my fear of being left, my struggle to trust. Emily had her own journey. She spent hours in therapy alone, sometimes coming home with red-rimmed eyes and a heaviness that lingered for days. She apologized often, sometimes too much. Other times, she grew distant, retreating into herself, as if afraid to take up space in my life. One night, after a particularly tense session, she sat on the edge of our bed and whispered, "I wish I could go back and undo it all." I turned to her, searching her face for signs of truth. "I know you do, but we can't. But we can only move forward. If we want to. She nodded, wiping her cheeks with the back of her hand. I do. I want to. Trust restoration, our therapist called it, a slow, daily practice of honesty and vulnerability. She encouraged us to set boundaries, to check in with each other, to talk about the hard things even when it hurt. We learned to identify our patterns, how Emily would shut down when she felt accused, and how I would press harder, desperate for reassurance. We tried new things, date nights at home, walks in the park, sometimes in silence, sometimes with laughter that felt almost normal. We started a gratitude journal, jotting down 3 things we appreciated about each other every day. Some days it was all I could do to write, "She made me tea," or "She remembered to call my mom." But it was something. The months crawled by. The pain didn't evaporate, but it softened, became less sharp. The intrusive thoughts still visited, visions of Emily and Matt in some shadowy corner of the gym, whispers of what if. But therapy helped me meet them with curiosity instead of panic. Our therapist introduced cognitive behavioral techniques. Notice the thought, name it, let it go. It was awkward at first, but over time, I felt less controlled by my own mind. Emily changed too. She grew more open, more willing to talk about her feelings instead of hiding behind half-truths or silence. She answered my questions, even when they made her uncomfortable. She stopped using her smartwatch in the evenings. She let me see her messages if I asked. We weren't fixed, but we were trying. One evening, nearly 6 months after everything came crashing down, we sat on the couch, legs tangled, watching an old movie. Emily's head rested on my shoulder. The credits rolled and she looked up at me. "I haven't talked to Matt in months," she said softly. "I blocked his number. I needed to choose us. I want you to know that." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. "Thank you." She squeezed my hand. "Do you believe me?" I hesitated, searching for the truth inside myself. "I want to. I'm trying." She nodded, her eyes shining in the dim light. "Me too." That night, for the first time in a long while, I slept without waking from nightmares. We kept going to therapy. We learned about emotional triggers, about how even innocuous moments, a certain song, a phrase, the sight of her gym bag, could send either of us spiraling. Our therapist taught us to pause, to name the feeling, to share it before it became a monster in the room. One afternoon, Emily came home with a bag of groceries and set them on the counter. I glanced at her, then at the bag, remembering the shock of that day months ago when I'd found the condom. My chest tightened. She noticed. "Hey," she said, her voice gentle. "Are you okay?" I nodded, then shook my head. "Sometimes it just comes back, the memory." She crossed the kitchen, wrapped her arms around me. "I know. I'm so sorry." I let myself lean into her embrace. Therapy wasn't just about repairing what had broken. It was about understanding why it broke in the first place. We talked about loneliness, about the routines that had numbed us, about the moments we'd stopped reaching for each other. Emily admitted she'd felt invisible, unappreciated, tired of being the responsible one. I admitted I'd taken her for granted, become complacent, relied on her steadiness while I drifted. We started making time for each other again, real time, not just shared space. We cooked together, tried new recipes, laughed at our failures. We took a weekend trip to a cabin in the woods, left our phones behind. We talked about the future, cautiously, but with hope. There were setbacks. Sometimes the old wounds reopened. I'd see a notification pop up on her phone and feel my stomach drop. She'd notice my distance and retreat, afraid she'd hurt me again. But we talked about it. We named it. We asked for what we needed. Our therapist introduced us to emotionally focused therapy techniques. How to identify the patterns that led us to hurt each other. How to create new patterns rooted in safety and connection. We practiced vulnerability, sharing fears we'd never voiced before. I told her how scared I was of not being enough. She told me how afraid she was of being abandoned. We learned to comfort each other, not just ourselves. One night, as autumn leaves drifted outside our window, Emily reached for my hand. "Do you think we'll ever be the same?" I looked at her, really looked. "No, but maybe we can be something new. Maybe even better." She smiled, tears on her cheeks. "I'd like that." We celebrated our anniversary quietly, just the two of us. We cooked dinner together, lit candles. She gave me a card. Inside, she'd written, "Thank you for staying. Thank you for fighting for us. I love you." I held her close, overwhelmed by the weight and the lightness of it all. Over time, the story of us changed. The affair wasn't the final chapter, but a turning point. We became more intentional, more present. We learned to forgive, not just each other, but ourselves. I forgave myself for not seeing the signs, for poking the condom, for the anger I'd unleashed. Emily forgave herself for the choices she'd made, for the hurt she'd caused. We both forgave the silence that had grown between us. We started seeing our friends again, inviting people over for dinner. Life felt normal most days. When people asked how we were, we said good and meant it. Sometimes, when I looked at Emily, I saw the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. Other times, I saw someone new, braver, more honest, more vulnerable. We kept going to therapy, less often now. Our therapist encouraged us to keep talking, to keep checking in, to keep choosing each other. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emily turned to me. "Do you ever regret staying?" I thought about it, really thought. No, it was hard. It still is sometimes, but I don't regret it. I love you. I love us. She smiled, leaning her head on my shoulder. "I don't," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the hum of passing cars and the quiet settling dusk. "I regret what I did, but I don't regret us fighting for this, for us." We sat in silence, the kind that wasn't empty but full, of history, pain, hope, the quiet optimism that maybe, just maybe, we'd make it through. I watched the sky fade from orange to violet, and the streetlights flicker on, one by one, as if lighting a path neither of us could see yet.
But healing, I quickly learned, is not a straight line. The world doesn't hand you a first start just because you decide to forgive. It's more like learning to walk again after a terrible fall, awkward, uncertain, sometimes with pain shooting up old injuries you thought had healed. I'd catch myself watching Emily sometimes when she laughed at a text message or turned her phone screen away. I'd tell myself it was nothing, innocent, a reflex, a ghost of what had been. But the voice in my head would whisper, "What if?" I hated that voice, but it was mine now, a shadow I carried after what happened. Therapy helped. It gave us tools, language, a way to map the terrain of our bruised hearts. Our therapist, Janice, told us that trust is like a muscle. Tear it, and it comes back stronger, but only if you do the work. No shortcuts, no skipping leg day. Some nights, though, I'd wake up and see Emily turned away from me, her hair fanned out on the pillow, her breathing deep and even. My mind would race. Was she dreaming of someone else? Was I enough? Was I ever? I'd lie awake, counting heartbeats, until exhaustion finally pinned me to sleep. The long-term effects of betrayal snuck up on me in unexpected ways. My confidence took a hit. I found myself doubting little things, the way I looked, the jokes I made, the way I touched her. I'd stare at myself in the mirror, searching for the flaws she'd seen, the reasons she'd strayed. The self-blame, the sense of not being enough, was a heavy coat I couldn't shake off. Emily noticed. She'd reach for my hand, squeeze it, sometimes just sit next to me in silence, as if her presence could shore up what was crumbling inside me. Sometimes it helped, sometimes it didn't. One afternoon, several months after the confession, Emily came home early from work. I was sitting on the back porch, staring at the sky, lost in thought. She slid the door open and stepped out, barefoot, holding 2 mugs of tea. "Hey," she said, handing me one. "Hey."
She sat beside me, folding her legs under herself. Her eyes were soft, vulnerable. "You've been quieter lately." I nodded. "I know it's hard," she said, "but I want to know what's going on in your head, even the ugly stuff." So I told her. I told her about the triggers, the old gym bag, the sight of a smartwatch notification, the way my heart would race if her phone lit up at dinner. I told her about the nightmares, the flashbacks, the way I sometimes found myself replaying the day I found the condom, the moment my world tilted off its axis. I told her about the self-doubt, the anger, the moments I wondered if I'd ever truly trust again. She listened. She didn't interrupt or defend herself. When I finished, she reached for my hand. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I wish I could take it all back. I wish I could make it so it never happened." I squeezed her hand. "Me too. But we can't." "No, we can't. But we can keep going. If you want to." I looked at her, really looked at her, the way her hair curled against her cheek, the flecks of gold in her eyes, the worry lines on her brow. I wanted to trust again. I wanted to believe in us. "I do," I said. "I want to keep going." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "Me too." That night, for the first time in a long while, I slept without waking. But the next day brought new challenges. That's the thing they don't tell you about forgiveness. It's a choice you make over and over, not a single act that wipes the slate clean. I saw Matt at the grocery store. He was in the produce aisle, picking through avocados. My heart lurched. I almost turned and left, but something held me there. He looked up, saw me, and for a moment, neither of us moved. Finally, he nodded, an awkward, apologetic gesture. I nodded back, tense, my fingers curled around the shopping cart handle. He didn't say anything, just picked his avocado and moved on. I stood there, shaking, as if I'd just stepped out of a cold shower. "At home," I told Emily. She bit her lip, eyes wide. "Did he say anything?" "No, didn't have to." We didn't talk about it after that, but the encounter hung between us for days, a silent reminder of what had been. Sometimes the smallest things would set me off. A song on the radio, a couple holding hands, a text notification popping up on her phone with a little red heart. Each time I had to remind myself, this is now, not then. Emily noticed my unease and started showing me her phone more often, not as proof, but as reassurance, an open door instead of a locked one. One evening, as we were getting ready for bed, she handed me her phone. "Check it if you want. I don't want there to be any secrets." I hesitated, then shook my head. "I trust you. I don't want to be that guy." She smiled, relief flooding her face. "Thank you." Slowly, trust began to rebuild itself, not as the blind faith we'd started with, but as a conscious, mutual decision. We put in the work, therapy, honest conversations, little acts of kindness. We started taking dance classes together, something neither of us had ever done. It was awkward and hilarious at first, but it gave us something new to share, a hobby that belonged to us, not the broken past. But Tane has a long memory. There were still nights when I'd wake up sweating, heart pounding, convinced she was gone. There were days when I'd see her smile at a stranger and feel an irrational pang of jealousy. I learned to talk about it, to name the fear instead of letting it fester. Our therapist told us that healing from infidelity is like grieving a death. You mourn the relationship you thought you had, the person you thought you loved. But if you're lucky and stubborn, you build something new in its place. Not the same, maybe not even better, but real. There were relapses, of course, times when old wounds reopened. Once, during a rough patch at work, I snapped at Emily over nothing. She took it, then quietly said, "You're not mad at me, you're mad at what happened." I realized she was right. The betrayal had left a mark, a tightness in my chest that sometimes flared up when I felt vulnerable. We talked about it, and I apologized. She forgave me. We moved on. Over time, the memories lost their sting. The image of the poked condom, the rush of panic and suspicion became a story we told ourselves, a cautionary tale about what happens when you stop paying attention, when you forget that love is a verb, not a noun. Emily changed too. She became more attentive, more present. She started leaving little notes for me on the bathroom mirror, in my lunch, tucked into my jacket pocket. "I love you. You're enough. Thank you for staying." I kept them all, a secret arsenal against the bad days. We learned to celebrate the small victories, the mornings we woke up tangled together, the inside jokes, the way she'd rest her head on my shoulder during movies. We built new memories, brick by brick, until the old ones weren't the first thing I thought of anymore. But some wounds never fully heal. There are still moments, brief, sharp, when I remember the hurt, the humiliation, the fear. I know now that's okay. It's part of our story. It doesn't define us, but it shapes us. 1 year after the day I found the condom, Emily surprised me with a weekend getaway. She booked a little cabin by the lake, just the two of us. We spent the days hiking, talking, laughing. At night, we lay on the dock, staring up at the stars. "Do you ever wish things had gone differently?" she asked. I thought about it. Sometimes. But if they had, maybe we wouldn't be here. Maybe we wouldn't know what we know now. She squeezed my hand. "I'm glad we're here." Me too. We lay there in silence, the water lapping against the dock, the sky endless above us. I wish I could say that was the end of the story, that we rode off into the sunset, stronger than ever. But real life is messier. There were setbacks, a fight about money, a rough patch when Emily lost her job, moments when anger or insecurity resurfaced. But the seismic shifts, those ruptures that left us raw, became less frequent, less intense. Sometimes I'd catch myself studying her face as she scrolled on her phone, my mind replaying the old doubts. The image of that smartwatch, the pulsing heart emojis, the way my stomach dropped, I could still feel it, like a scar under the skin. Therapists told us scars fade but never disappear. They become part of you, less visible, but you remember how you got them. We talked about this sometimes, in therapy and outside it. Emily confessed that she still felt ashamed, that guilt would blindside her at the oddest moments, when she heard a certain song, when she saw an old photo, when she watched me laugh with her parents. I admitted that sometimes I still had nightmares, flashes of betrayal, moments when I'd wake up in a cold sweat, heart racing for reasons I couldn't explain. The therapist called it post-infidelity stress. She said it was normal, even healthy, for both of us to acknowledge it out loud. "You don't have to pretend it didn't happen," she'd said. "You just have to decide what you want to do with it." We chose, every day, to keep building. We didn't try to erase what happened. Instead, we learned to carry it differently. We became experts at open communication, sometimes clumsy, sometimes raw, but always honest. If Emily was going to be late, she texted me. If I felt anxious, I told her. We made new rituals, checking in before bed, holding hands in public, saying "I love you" even on hard days. There were setbacks, of course. One night, we went out to dinner with some friends. The restaurant was noisy, laughter echoing off the high ceilings. Emily excused herself to the restroom and my phone buzzed, an alert from her smartwatch, which she'd forgotten to silence. For a split second, I saw a name I didn't recognize and a heart emoji, and every defense inside me snapped awake. I spent the rest of the meal distracted, barely tasting my food, my mind a hurricane of suspicion and shame for feeling it. When we got home, I told her what happened, bracing myself for her anger, but she just sighed and pulled out her phone. She showed me the message, a group chat with her old college friends. The heart was from Lauren, who always signed her messages that way. We laughed about it, but a piece of me grieved the ease we'd lost. The before times, when a heart emoji meant nothing, when a message was just a message. But we survived moments like that. We learned to survive together. Time passed, and the milestones came. Birthdays, holidays, another anniversary. Each one was a quiet victory, a small celebration that we'd made it another day, another week, another year. We started talking about the future again, about maybe moving to a bigger place, about taking a trip to Italy, about someday starting a family. I hesitated at first. The idea of bringing a child into a story that had already known so much pain scared me. What if the cracks showed? What if the scars bled through? Emily held my hand. "We're not perfect," she said, "but we're honest. That's better, I think." We made plans. We saved money. I started a new job, something I was passionate about, and Emily found work she loved too. We spent weekends hiking, trying new recipes, hosting friends for game nights. Life wasn't a fairy tale, but it was ours. I'd be lying if I said I never thought about what happened. Sometimes, when the world was quiet, I'd remember the foil packet, the way my hands shook, the sick certainty in my chest. But I also remembered Emily's tears, her apologies, the way she fought for us in therapy, the way we learned to laugh again. I realized, slowly, that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting. It was about choosing, every day, to move forward anyway. The pain didn't vanish, but it lost its teeth. If you made it this far, thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever gone through something like this, know that healing is possible, even if it doesn't look the way you expected. And if you want to hear more stories about life, love, and everything in between, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment and hit like. It really helps the channel. And subscribe for more true stories.